listening to the Life Edit Project podcast, where busy, ambitious high achievers get the tools they need to fight overwhelm and overthinking with balance, self-mastery, and a positive mindset. I'm your host, Elizabeth Burrows. I'm serving up bite-sized truth bombs in a judgment-free zone based on my perspective as a life coach, wife, mom, and recovering overachiever. We keep it real over here, which usually means some combination of insightful, entertaining, and a hot mess express. So, if you're looking for perfection, look elsewhere. But if you're still with me, let's dig into this week's episode. Good day, good people. I'm glad to have you back with me this week again for episode 19. Episode 19 of the Life Edit Project podcast. I'm really excited to be here today, y'all. So not only am I excited because this is episode 19 and we just have like 2 episodes left in season 1. So we're really coming close to the end here. But also, for the first time, I am speaking to you from an official recording studio. Normally, I record these episodes in my home studio, but today I got extra fancy and I'm actually in a recording studio. So that's super cool. But I'm also just really glad to be here with you all. It turns out I enjoy podcasting, and I have really enjoyed just coming in every week and talking to you all about whatever is on my mind and about whatever I think is important for you all to know. This podcast has really become an outlet for my thoughts and ideas that might not ever otherwise reach the masses. So I'm really excited about that. And that's really awesome because, as it turns out, I have a lot to say about a lot of different things. Which, if you know me at all, that's not a surprise. I always have things to say. So, podcasting has been fun, and it turns out I think I'm a natural. Anywho, today I'm going to spend some time talking to you all about perfectionism. So I've mentioned perfectionism and being a perfectionist. I've mentioned it in passing on a few episodes this season, but I really want to spend some time today exploring what perfectionism is and how it shows up in our lives, and also kind of what we can do about it instead, because I know it's something that a lot of you listeners struggle with, and it's not just y'all, it's me too, right? Y'all have heard me say on more than one occasion that I myself am a recovering perfectionist. That does mean that I have some tips to share, but it also means that I can totally relate if you are still in the thick of struggling with perfectionism. So I'm excited to chat with you all today. But before we dive in, I do want to do 2 things. So first, I want to remind you all to get your questions in for next week's Ask Me Anything episode. Y'all should already know the deal by now, but just in case you're new around here, I'll give you a little recap of how this works. So episode 20 is going to be an Ask Me Anything show. That means I am responding to the questions that you all send in. Nothing is off limits. Ask me whatever it is that you want. And you can even submit as many questions as you like because I'm totally not keeping track. So, whatever you have, bring it to me. If you want my insights on a particular decision maybe that you're wrestling with, or how to navigate a tricky relationship, if you need some ideas, some specific ideas on how to improve your self-care in a particular situation, or maybe you just want to know more about me and my life because you're a little bit nosy, it's all good. So I've got the submission form linked up in the show notes for you. And yes, you can totally stay anonymous, so you don't have to worry about your personal business being on Front Street if you have a really personal question to ask. So get your questions in by Sunday, October 1st, if you want to be considered, because I will be giving my responses on the episode that drops next Wednesday, October 4th. So get your questions in. Next up, I want to give a shout out to my listener bae of the week. Woo woo. Okay, so y'all know that I love and appreciate all of my listeners, but the ones that take time to leave me a 5-star rating and review over on Apple Podcasts, y'all get to be my bae. So as much as I love podcasting, sometimes it really just feels like I'm talking to myself because it's just me and this microphone over here. So I really love it when a listener takes the time to share their thoughts and their feedback with me, because it turns this into more of a dialogue instead of just a monologue from me. And I especially appreciate it when that feedback from my listeners comes in the form of a review that helps new listeners find the show. So today's listener bae of the week is Melissa Monday. That's her username, and I think that's probably also her real name too. Her review is titled Overachiever right here, and here's what she had to say. I feel so called out as an overachiever, but also so grateful to feel heard and seen by Elizabeth. These episodes feel made for me. Thanks, Melissa, for that positive feedback. Yes, I see you, sis, and it's nothing but love over here on my end from one overachiever to another. So remember, if y'all want to be my listener bae of the week, all you have to do is go on Apple Podcasts and leave that 5-star rating and review. Yes, that means you have to write some words. If you don't know how to do it, I've got step-by-step instructions on my website. Just go to lifeeditproject.com/podcast. And of course, you can find that link in the show notes as well. All right, so that's enough dilly-dallying. It's time to dig into the meat and potatoes of this episode. Let's talk about perfectionism and how it's different from excellence, shall we? So, spoiler alert, this conversation is absolutely going to end with me telling you that perfectionism isn't giving what you think is giving, and that what you really want in your life is excellence instead. And I say this with the big-bodied, full-chested confidence of someone who used to identify proudly as a perfectionist and now helps other people put a stop to their perfectionist ways. And I also know that one of the things that makes it so hard to give up perfectionism is that deep down, we still believe that perfectionism is good. But I call BS. Perfectionism is not good. And being a perfectionist doesn't make you a better person than someone who's not a perfectionist. But in order for me to convince you of this, we need to get on the same page and talk about what perfectionism really is. And that means it's time for another Coach Elizabeth definition. Let's do it. So if you're taking notes, this is absolutely where you want to write this down. You may even want to rewind this because you want to get this definition. Perfectionism is the practice of trying to prevent or eliminate differences, flaws, or shortcomings in order to attain or demonstrate quality and value. I know, there's a lot to this definition. I'm going to repeat it. Perfectionism is the practice of trying to prevent or eliminate differences, flaws, or shortcomings in order to attain or demonstrate quality and value. When you're a perfectionist, you're always striving to make things more perfect than they would otherwise be without your concerted efforts. But what does it even mean for something to be perfect? It means that thing will be without flaws or shortcomings, sure. And that's one of the reasons why so many of us are proud to be perfectionists, right? Because we're preventing or getting rid of flaws and shortcomings. Those pesky imperfections. But, and this is important, being a perfectionist and trying to make things perfect also means that we have a very low tolerance for things to be different than we imagine or expect them to be. And this is where it gets tricky and even harmful. So let me give you a real-world example. I have a very creative, artistic daughter. Y'all met her back on a previous episode. Her name's Naomi. She's amazing. She loves to craft and create things, and these days her favorite form of artistic expression is to draw, and she's really, really good at it. Like, she's super talented, way better than I ever was. But when she was, a few years younger, when she was young and, she didn't have her drawing chops yet, she would sometimes ask me to help her draw something, and I would oblige. Now, if you've ever seen a drawing of literally anything, you know that there's more than one way to draw everything. More than one way. Drawing is not an objective act with one correct end result, right? But if my daughter, years ago, would ask for my help to draw, let's say, a flower, my vision of a flower would be different than her vision of a flower. And instead of me helping her execute her vision of a flower that she was trying to draw, I would try to, quote unquote, fix her drawing to make it look like the image that I had in my head of a flower. And I would do this even if it wasn't what she wanted, right? She wanted my help on executing her vision, but the perfectionist in me needed to eliminate the difference between what was on paper versus what I would imagine in my head. And so in doing this and me showing up this way, I would end up frustrating myself, right? Because my daughter, she and I aren't getting along. We're not jiving. But I would also frustrate her because she still doesn't have the drawing that she's trying to create. And if I get, let's say, reckless with my words, or if I'm not super intentional, I could even damage her confidence about her drawing abilities, right? Because as a perfectionist, I might say, oh, that's not the right way to do it. Or I might say something like, this is a better way to draw this petal, right? So perfectionism can be harmful because it makes us intolerant of differences. But perfectionism is also not just harmful in that way, but it can also be inefficient because we're often focused on delivering flawlessness rather than results. And when the most important thing to you is that you avoid making mistakes, a lot of times you will simply just not take action. Or you'll stay stuck in learning and planning and research mode instead of execution mode. Or you'll keep tweaking and editing and changing and revising instead of shipping and delivering your final product, whatever that's supposed to be. Because your perfectionism ties the value of your work, and by extension, your value as a person, to the extent to which your work is free of flaws and shortcomings and differences. And this is why so many perfectionists struggle with procrastination. We're so afraid that what we'll do will be imperfect and that imperfection will make us inadequate, unworthy, and even unlovable. By the way, this is also why so many perfectionists are overachievers, because we believe that the more perfect our work is, the better it means we are, and therefore the more worthy we are of whatever it is that we think we don't deserve. But again, I'm going to call BS. Because as a coach, I know that every case of perfectionism is built on the same foundational belief, that perfect is objectively better than imperfect. But just because that's what you believe doesn't mean that's what's true. There are so many cases where our imperfections actually add value. Our imperfections can spur innovation and teach us new lessons and even create better results than whatever it was that we originally had in mind. Being a perfectionist doesn't help you show up as your best self. Being a perfectionist actually restricts you and gets in the way of you finding out what your best self is capable of. Hey there, it's Coach Elizabeth here. I hope you're enjoying this episode and that you'll walk away with some ideas for how you can start recovering from perfectionism today. But But depending on where you are in your journey, you might need even more support to get over the hump. That's where my one-on-one coaching services come in. When you hire me as your personal life coach, I'll teach you how to take imperfect action in the spirit of excellence and still get amazing results in both your personal and professional life. Use the link in the show notes to book a call with me to get started, and let's kick that perfectionism to the curb once and for all. Okay, back to the show. All right, so we've established that perfectionism is inefficient at best and harmful at worst because it causes us to delay results and it makes us unable to appreciate anything that's different than what we expect, even when those differences exceed our expectations. Perfectionism is not your friend. Perfectionism always comes at the expense of your progress. Somebody write that down. Somebody make a little social media graphic and share that and credit me, tag me in the post because that's good. Okay, so perfectionism is not your friend. We're not here for that. But you're telling me you've got high standards. You have ambitious goals and lots that you want to accomplish. You have a big vision for your life. And for years, you've been a practicing perfectionist because that's what you were taught would get you there. And here I come telling you that perfectionism is actually slowing you down. So what are you supposed to do instead? Lean in, sis. I'm going to give you the answer. Operate with a mindset of excellence. You see, unlike perfectionism, excellence leaves room for flaws, shortcomings, and differences. Excellence accounts for your humanity and the fact that there will be some things that you cannot do well without first doing them poorly, and that there will be some things that you will never do well at all. Excellence doesn't make it a problem that your human body has finite energy and limited capacity that happens to be impacted by all kinds of physical, mental, and emotional factors. Excellence is not based on perfection. Excellence is based on possibility. So here are 3 questions that I'm going to give you, and you can ask yourself these questions in any situation to cultivate a mindset of excellence. Ready? The first question is, what does my best look like in this situation? So I want you to ask this question before you get started doing the thing, whatever it is, because it's going to help you set the stage for excellence. And that's important because you've got the habit of perfectionism, so you have to start with excellence on purpose. It's not going to be automatic. So when you ask yourself this question, it only works if you are super duper honest with yourself. It does not work if you take this question and you use it to should on yourself. You do not have my permission to use this question to beat yourself up by imagining an unrealistic ideal of what you think your best should be and then comparing your current best to that. That is not how this question works. Instead, I want you to use this question to help you take stock of all the different variables that are in play. I want you to consider, how are you feeling? How much time do you have? What are the resources you have access to? What is it that you know and don't know? Do you even like the task that's in front of you? All of those factors make a difference on what your best will look like at any given point in time. So that's the first question. The second question that you can ask yourself to help cultivate a mindset of excellence is this: what can I be proud of? And you can ask this question before, during, and after you do the thing. And please don't skip this question. It seems obvious, but it's really important. All too often, our perfectionism has us scanning for flaws and shortcomings, and we do that so much that we don't even know how to see the good parts. So you're going to ask yourself this question: what can I be proud of, to help build the muscle of taking pride in what you do well without criticism. And that is absolutely a non-negotiable part of the mindset of excellence. And asking this question, what can I be proud of, is also a gateway into starting to consider the beauty of the imperfections, no matter where they show up. The third question that I want you to ask yourself to help cultivate the mindset of excellence is this: what can I do differently next time? And you'll ask this question both during the task that you're performing and also after you've done the thing. Now, yes, this question is about acknowledging room for growth and improvement. But it's also about acknowledging the unique lessons that we can only glean from direct lived experience. There are some things that you won't know to do, or some things that you'll never think to change or ask for until you've gotten some experience under your belt. So it's not always fair to ask yourself this question: what would I do differently next time, before you've done the thing? That's why I'm saying you ask yourself this question while the thing is in progress, but also once you're done. And again, I have to reiterate, this question is not about beating yourself up for your mistakes. In fact, I don't even want you to think that you have to be scanning for mistakes when you ask this question. You don't need to consider something a mistake to decide that you want to change it up. And this is really important, and this is part of what perfectionism does not allow us room for. You can acknowledge, with the mindset of excellence, you can acknowledge that something is good, that nothing has gone wrong, and that you still want to strive for different or better. I also want you to use this question as an opportunity to acknowledge that perfect is not always better. So sometimes we learn that certain types of preparation or tasks that we do when we're operating from that mode of perfectionism, they end up having no real impact on the final results that we get. Or we learn that there are some things that we do that are extra work, but they don't provide us with any kind of extra benefit. So perfectionism always perpetuates overworking, but excellence, when you ask this question, what can I do differently next time, it creates an opportunity for you to opt out of the overworking. And that is a wonderful space to be in. Okay, so those are the 3 questions that you can use to start cultivating a mindset of excellence and to combat that habit of perfectionism that you have. So I want you to try those out. And please, y'all, I feel like I shouldn't have to say this, but I know I do. Don't get discouraged if you try out these questions or if you try cultivating a mindset of excellence and it doesn't stick right away and you find yourself reverting into your habits of perfectionism. You do not have to practice excellence perfectly to get results. And that is one of the big differences between excellence and perfectionism. Excellence is about iteration. So you can always give yourself another chance to try again and to aim for more excellent results. But there is no perfect destination for you to get to. All right, my friends, that's all I have for you today. That's today's episode. I'll be back in your ears next week, of course, for our Ask Me Anything episode. I cannot wait to see what kind of juicy questions y'all have for me. The last time we did an Ask Me Anything episode, y'all had some good ones in the bunch. So keep those questions rolling in. In the meantime, go take imperfect action. I promise you'll get where you want to go faster that way. All right? Peace. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Life Edit Project podcast. I'd love to hear what your favorite moment or key takeaway was from this conversation. You can send me a message on Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter to let me know. My handle is @LifeEditProject, all one word, in all the places. My social media is linked up in the show notes to make it easy for you. Holla at your girl. I'll be back next week with another episode. In the meantime, don't just stay busy with the life you have, get busy creating the life you want.